Really Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
Good morning, I'm Jim Check. The handsome-looking young devil on the other side of the screen there, Mr. Ian Burns. And we're coming to you live every morning at 9 a.m. PST. And we do this without fail. Well, we hope to do it without fail. Whether rain, snow, sleet, dead of night, well, 9 a.m. And beautiful day here in the Okanagan. We have Dan Elbis, MP here in the Okanagan. West Kelowna MP. He's going to join us at 11 a.m. PST. And we're going to talk about Toronto Pearson Airport with Dan Elbis. If you're an MP, you want to come on, especially Liberals, we've sent out many, many invitations to the Liberal MPs. We've sent one out to Don Davies. We'd like to have him on as well. So we would love to have you on. David Eby's received many, many requests, and I have interviewed David Eby in the past. Our show today, though, the headline, Canadians go to bed hungry while our leaders fatten their bellies. And that's a sad, sad reality. We talked about that yesterday. 1 in 4, 25% of Canadians now with food insecurity. 11% now below the poverty line in Canada. The ones making the rules, not feeling the pain. And then yesterday we showed you Steve McKinnon saying an attack, Poilievre attacking the Liberals is like attacking Canada. No, it's not true. It's attacking the Liberal Party. It's attacking policy failure. They are two different things. People have to get that in their head. There'll be people on here sometimes saying that we're attacking Canada and that we should, we're getting paid by Trump and all that stuff. We're attacking policy failure. The Liberals have been attacking Canada for the past 11 years, and the receipts are in. 1 in 4 Canadians suffering from food insecurity, 11% below the poverty line. Unemployment rate, double that of the US almost. That's who's attacking Canada.
And don't forget what kind of countries and what kind of leaders do that. What the Liberals are now doing every day. Every single day now. Every work day anyway, Monday to Friday. Every time they speak, they're adopting that tactic of equating criticism of the Liberal Party's policies with criticism of Canada itself. What kind of countries and leaders do that in history? Just think about it. I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to tell you. Just have a look. Get your Google out. Get your Grok out. Whatever the hell it is. And just ask. And look around. Look at the kind of leaders and political movements in history that have done that. Making it so that criticism of them, of their leadership, of their policies, of their party, is seen as criticism of the nation and the people and the country's pride and all the rest of it. Just have a look and then come back and report the information that you gather.
And one of the common denominators along with that is a media that also shields the power that be. Seems odd, doesn't it? Seems odd indeed. Truth is the only way forward. Criticism, critiques. That's how we get better. That's what competition is, right? That's what competition is. We have to get better. We're such an underperforming nation. We're an underperforming nation. It's a shame and a travesty to be where we're at. We got some feedback to share with you, though. We got some here. Appreciate you, too. It's hard to watch sometimes, so it needs to be said thank you. It's hard for us to do. Absolutely every day, too. And somebody really loved your thing yesterday. Loved the drive-by. I thought that was
I loved it. I loved it as well. I loved watching it.
Really big show, becoming the best broadcast in Canada. Thank you for that. We work damn hard every day with a small team and a minuscule budget that keeps getting tightened by, again, the Liberal policies that crush independent media with Bill C-18. So maybe we'll get some hope. Maybe CUSMA, the renewal. Headlines, Canada calls for CUSMA renewal. Canada now calls for CUSMA renewal. Economists say no quick end to uncertainty. I watched Bloomberg this morning and it said Canada demands CUSMA renewal for 16 years. I'm just like, what? How are we in a position to demand anything after sticking a stick in the eye of the Americans and even Mexico for that matter sometimes? It's just like all for the sake of power. And now we're demanding, and again, that headline is for the elbows up crowd. Literally, it's for them so that they can see, like, see, now we're getting in there. Now we want a deal. Now we're getting in there, demanding. Come on.
Well, Dominic LeBlanc was on that rooftop in Washington D.C. yesterday, and he was asked by one of the earnest Liberal Party supporting reporters, who humbly asked his lord and master, just said, "Oh, so does this officially mean that the talks have been renewed? Then we're back in business now. It's official. We're talking again." And Dom LeBlanc said, "It's been that way for months. We officially restarted talks months ago." So I don't know. I mean, whatever you said, Dom, you're not going to get challenged for it, mate. Nobody in the Canadian press or intelligentsia is going to hold you to account for that. So if you want to say that, Dom, I guess that's true. I guess that's reality.
The only truth it is the truth that you heard this morning. All the other truths that you heard the other days that contradict today's truth, those aren't truths. Those are yesterday's truths.
Winston Smith has already edited the record, if you're wondering. So don't even bother searching.
This one here is interesting, and the apologists are out there probably already. For nearly a century, the United States prohibited importation of goods made with forced labor, and so they put a 10% tariff on goods that have anything to do with or may have something to do with forced labor. And this is
They're
one,
considering it. They haven't implemented it.
The apologists like Michael Ma would say, "Wow, there's no proof of that." Again, you know how forced labor hurts Canadian workers and American workers for that matter? Because we can't compete against forced labor, can we?
No.
And so that brings in the question, why did we do the BC Ferry deal? Why did we send our money, Canadian Infrastructure Bank money, to China to build ferries? And they said one of the reasons was cost.
What are you on about? You're getting it so wrong. Listen to esteemed public servant Michael Ma. Just have a listen to him. He's an absolute expert on this subject. He's even from China. Listen to him talk about it. What forced labor? Have you seen forced labor with your eyes? Have you been to Xinjiang and seen this? What are you on about? There is no forced labor in China. The Communist Party said so. I mean, can you think of a more reliable institution than the Communist Party of China?
And here's Mark Carney's reaction, and obviously he's now towing the line here. Listen to this.
I'll note, and he can speak for himself, Minister LeBlanc had very constructive discussions with his counterpart, Ambassador Greer, yesterday in Washington, along with our chief negotiator, Janet Charette. Secondly, with respect to these 301 tariffs, this is not a surprise. It's something that the U.S. has been planning for a few months. I think very importantly is that two things. One is that the tariffs are consulted for 30 days or 30 plus days. Secondly, explicitly in the decision, Canada, the carve out for CUSMA is referenced and maintained. So that puts us in a position where, again, we would still have the best trade deal of any of the U.S. trade counterparts. I want to say as well that the issue, the motivation of the U.S. action, the 301 tariffs against, or proposed tariffs against a variety of countries, is something that we share. Canada has a very strong legislative regime against forced labor in supply chains. We don't want any element of forced labor coming in goods and services, and we want to use our influence to eliminate this practice of forced labor and child labor. We have been preparing ways to reinforce the regime that we have. We made some changes earlier this year on things that candidly were not as effective, so there's ways we can change things legislatively. We'll be proposing that to the House in the coming weeks before the House rises, is our intention, and then taking steps to move forward on that. So, when you boil down the action, we support the overall objective, the U.S. action, I should say, and I would note that, in effect, how it's drafted for the vast majority of Canadian trade, it will not have an impact. But at the same time, since we support the
That's
overall
good.
objective,
That's good. We apologize that audio was quiet there and Ian put out there. Like, we need to find just a different source. It would be like 10 sources on that video.
Well, it's CPAC. This is a CPAC video. It's not the Western Standards video. Western Standard have, I guess, compressed it or something and made it quiet. But it's a shame. It's an absolute shame and a disaster. It's a moral disaster that we didn't have a good volume on that. Because at the beginning, it's so funny. I actually
Maybe
burst out into laughter.
We'll play it again because it contradicts.
But
I mean, go
at
ahead.
the beginning, just to finish my point, at the beginning, the journalists are a little bit boisterous. They're like, "Oh, the Prime Minister," and they're all asking him things, and you can hear very, very clearly somebody goes, "Shh," and sure enough, like devotees in the church, they all get quiet, take off their hats, and listen to their noble lord. Contrast that with almost exactly the same setting, exactly the same setup. It was yesterday, I think, with Pierre Poilievre. Just compare and contrast. To them, Pierre Poilievre is just like one of them. He's just like a nobody. They just like push him around and shout at him to the point where Pierre Poilievre had to like say like, stop. Like, I can't hear this person. This person is trying to ask me a question. Like, be quiet. And it took like 10 seconds of him doing that for them to be quiet. But when His Majesty, when the Prince is on the premises, these slaves just shut up. They listen to the shush sound. It's like, oh, sorry. You might have got the impression that I'm not particularly impressed by these people, and I don't respect them very much. But somehow, every day they make me respect them even less. And this is exhibit 25,000 at this point.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. We bring it up all the time. Like, it's like rabid dogs when it's with Pierre Poilievre. They're not equals. They're like, he's the low chicken on the pole. Like, he's to be attacked. Like, I mean, it's just like vermin. And then the other side of it. And is that the Audra there that punishes them if they dare speak out? Because how are they so trained like seals when it comes to the Prime Minister? And how are they so rabid when it comes to Pierre Poilievre? How such a big contrast? Like, it's absolutely mind-bending. It doesn't even make any sense that every one of them would toe the line like that.
Well, you talk about being trained. It's quite obviously Pavlovian, isn't it? I mean, it's the most basic form of animal training that we know of. You give them something good when they display good behavior. You give them something bad when they display bad behavior. They've been completely whipped and trained in that way, but that doesn't quite explain it all. They also instinctively prefer Mark Carney to Pierre Poilievre. That's hardly conjecture. That's hardly some wacky theory. That's who these people are. They're liberals with a small L. Almost every single one of those people that you can see there. Everyone asking questions. And I don't know what to say to you if you don't already know that. But I mean, having spent my life in this, my working life in this debauched, corrupted profession of journalism, 95+% of people involved in journalism are left liberals, progressives. Obviously, these are too. And this is the leader of the progressive, or the left anyway, in Canada. So they're deferent to him because they respect him personally. It's in them, as well as the fact that his party campaigned on media subsidies. So it's in their financial interests if they want to pay their mortgage or their rent. And it's also in their ideological interests. Surprise, surprise, they are slaves and they're deferent to the king because he's their king. You know what I mean? He's not someone else. He's not like an opponent, or he's not like some abstract figure to criticize. He's their boy. So they're trying to look out for him.
And the other thing to note in here is that when this was first announced by Jameson Greer, there was some backlash from media. And it's like they wanted to do something, like, oh, Trump's doing another tariff. And then Carney comes out and says, no, it's all good. We support this tariff. And all of a sudden they're just like, oh, yeah, this is okay. This is okay. So we don't go after this one. And it's just crazy. The amount of contradictions in Mark Carney's couple minutes there compared to the past 6 months there on China, completely the silence, and not allowing people to even to ask questions the other day when he was meeting with the Chinese minister there. It was Chinese minister?
Foreign minister. The same foreign minister who, in response to this report being published, said, quote, "There is no such thing as forced labor in China," end quote. So the same guy. Mark Carney's trying to say he cares about forced labor. You just met this bloke. You just bloody met this bloke. You chased the press out of the room so that they wouldn't ask any questions. Your own MP, Michael Marr, regurgitates those exact words, those lines. He regurgitates the lines of the Communist Party of China. And then you stand there and say you care about forced labor. How stupid do you think we are? How stupid does this man think we are?
And also, Trump yesterday put out that 51st, after seeing the Canada in a recession, put out that post 51st state thing, and then Jameson Greer reposted it, and then, you know, a lot of people lost their minds again as usual. And that's that TDS stuff. We got a little clip here as he's asked the question about this, because this is what they love to do.
The current world. The question is for you, Mr. Carney. Perhaps you could explain how you can have constructive discussions on CUSMA when you hear U.S. officials reflecting again on Canada as the 51st state. Well, in a sense, in another world, it would be strange. But in the current world, well, you know, this is really one aspect of negotiating with the Americans. It's one aspect. We have to be calm, we have to have a plan, we have to have options, and we especially have to focus on what we can control. And we can control how we build Quebec, Longueuil, and Canada.
That's good. Where was this guy, like, for the rest of the year? Like the last 13 months, where was he? Where was this reasonable tone?
Well, I mean, he could have listened to us a year ago. I think he's starting to discover just how important the United States is to the Canadian economy.
Well, he said that later on in these clips. He did say how, you know, they're so important. But then if you go back and replay all the stuff that you've said in the last 13 months, you should have went back in time and told yourself to stop acting like a fool and putting so many Canadians on the unemployment line, so many Canadians that can't put food on the table, so many Canadians that go to bed at night hungry. It's on you.
But on this specific point of the forced labor thing, how long have the Americans been talking about this? You know, and indeed, the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party, like, this has been an issue for so long, but the Americans have been upset about this, specifically when it comes from China, for ages and ages, and this is bipartisan. In many ways, Democrats are even more sort of up on this. Biden administration was talking about this stuff all the time. That's why the Biden administration, or one of the reasons the Biden administration effectively banned Chinese EVs. So this is hardly new, is it? We know that this really upsets the Americans. In that context, why'd you go to Beijing and ignore human rights, even though you lied about it? For human rights, read things like "don't enslave people." Why did you go to China, ignore all that stuff, and say, yeah, we'll let you have a massive chunk of our EV market, which we consider to be the most important car market in Canada. We're going to let you come in and have a massive chunk of that, even though most of us voted not very long ago in Parliament to condemn your genocide of the Uyghur people and forced enslavement of the Uyghur people and their production of goods and materials that are used in the production of Chinese EVs. Why'd you do that, Mark? In retrospect, was that very intelligent? Do you think that was a particularly shrewd thing to do? Again, it all comes home. You know, this is why you need criticism of leaders, you know. because leaders, everybody, it seems, will do stupid things. And they'll particularly do stupid things if they don't have anybody to hold them to account. We're just now eating the rotten fruit of a Carney mistake.
And also, even worse, Michael Maugh's comments there in committee. No retribution for Michael Maugh. And in fact, he went to a fundraiser, I think it was the night after, without calling out or making Michael Maugh retract all those statements. And he said he apologized, which he didn't apologize. And Mark Carney went to that fundraiser and the media ignored it.
And well, more importantly than that, Mark Carney ignored the crisis within the Liberal Party. And the thing is, a lot of parochial Canadians think that shameful episode was just about Canada. This was just a Canadian affair. Obviously not. The whole bloody world was watching that. The whole planet watched that happen. And particularly the Americans. You know, this is a sensitive subject for the Americans, obviously, as they've explained a million times. They saw that happen. They saw a trusted Liberal Party MP, regurgitate the propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party and dismiss the reality of forced labor, aka slavery, in China and the persecution of the Uyghur people in China.
Aggressively.
And the use of goods, materials produced by slaves, effectively, in the Chinese car industry. He dismissed all that, ignored all that, and did it while insulting one of Canada's foremost experts on that very subject. And then the next day, or whatever it was, Mark Carney was, lavishing him with attention and prestige and status. And nothing happened to that man. You think the Americans didn't notice that? Seriously. Do you think the Americans weren't watching that? This whole thing this is a self-inflicted wound. And then Mark Carney gets up there and says, oh, we're on the same page. We also don't like forced labor. Shut your mouth. Shut up.
Why does it matter? That's the question, right? Why does it matter? Because when Michael Maugh, says it doesn't exist, why does it matter? It matters to every Canadian worker. It matters to every American worker, because we can't compete with slave labor. It forces companies to try and push down wages here in Canada and in the United States so that they can compete. If you look at, again, the BC Ferry thing, how do we compete with the BC Ferries when David Eby picked that on cost? He said cost is one of the factors. Forced labor, inferior aluminum and steel, and no industrial carbon tax. How does Canada compete? These are Liberal policies that put Canada at a serious disadvantage. So the critique is not on Canada. The critique is on Liberal policies that are attacking Canada and attacking Canadians and having Canadians go to bed hungry at night.
I agree. It is absolutely of particular concern to the Canadian worker, and it's a disgrace that the unions haven't been, demonstrating about this every day. But then, what are unions for these days? Not really much of that they're bothered about these days. But I would also say this is of particular concern to another group of people, and this is moderately controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway, and that is Christians. Mark Carney tells us he's a devoted Christian. He's a true believer. He's a real Catholic. This kind of thing is of particular concern to Christians because the Christian faith preaches the evil of mistreating human beings. You can't read the Gospels without getting that message. And you certainly can't listen to somebody like, the Pope, without getting that message. That to treat humans, to dismiss humans held in bondage, being persecuted, is a disgusting, unforgivable sin. Mark Carney, the Christian. I'm just going to keep bringing this up because I find this to be remarkable about Mr. Carney. But he permitted all this to go on while telling us that he's a true believer. He's a real believer in the Christian faith. How do you do that? How do you effectively condone slavery indirectly through one of your servants? I don't know how you can do that and be a Christian.
We got another clip here from Mark Carney.
once again making his 51st state jab, and the US ambassador to Canada reshared it. Is this an ambassador that Canada can work with, or is it time to ask him to leave?
Look, the short answer is no to the second part of your question. And it's an administration that we have to work with. It's our biggest trading relationship. It's our biggest security relationship, many other relationships, and we work with that administration. We take the administration as it is and are working together on a number of areas. And I'll just underscore, and I know there are other questions, I'll just underscore that Minister LeBlanc and Madame Charette, une autre Madame Charette, our negotiator-in-chief, not negotiatrice en chef, they are in Washington today working with the U.S. administration discussing our trade relationship.
State jab at this point impact those trade negotiations happening in Washington?
The president is an exceptionally active user of social media. You probably can chart his usage of it. It's only gone up in recent months, and we're not going to respond or react to everything that he posts. Thank you.
That's all you've been doing for the past 13 months.
Exactly. I mean, it's literally the foundation stone of your political brand. It's the reason that you're standing there is because of your reactions to a social media post. So, again, rich from Mr. Carney, but said with a straight face and gratefully swallowed by, if we believe the latest poll, 50% of the Canadian population. But I would also just say, once again, that's Mark Carney being on camera, publicly, being patronizing and insulting to the President of the United States. Where's that going to get you, do you think? Has that proven to be a wise strategy or an unwise strategy? Discuss. I feel like it's like a high school essay question or something. Mark Carney doesn't know how to get an A grade on that essay, unfortunately. But he keeps on doing it. He's already implied that Donald Trump doesn't understand basic economics. He's had a go at him on so many levels, and now he just looks down on him. It's like he's an exceptionally active user in social media. Just like basically saying like he's some sort of vulgar peasant that's just constantly on the internet, like spamming garbage on Truth Social. I mean, okay, that's one way to approach the relationship with the United States. I can think of better ones.
And just recently, the CRTC, I think you put this in here, the CRTC came out with that new tax. They were going to increase the tax from 5 to 15%, just as we were, entering these crucial negotiations on July 1. 15%. And everybody said, like, what are you doing? And is this the quickest backpedal ever? Or do they have more backpedals that are worse than this one?
Well, digital services tax, Bombardier threatened because the Boeing or whatever it was, jets weren't approved. Was it on Monday or something that I said? Or was it even yesterday that I was saying, like, they can and they probably will do this? Sure enough, there you go. What makes, like, this is obvious and necessary that they've done this, that they've backed down on this, as they'll back down on so much more, because the Americans clearly are not pissing around, are they? The Americans are very serious this time, and the Liberals keep on caving in to the Americans. They're going to keep on doing it. But this one, what makes it repugnant and vile from the Liberal Party is that rather than just get rid of this straight away, they spent days saying the CRTC is an independent organization. We can't intervene. Nothing we can do about it. And then they said, and you know what the Conservatives want, don't you? They want to kill Canadian media and have us swamped by American TV and movies. They don't care about Quebec. They don't care about French language stuff. They don't care about gay hockey TV show that we're so proud of. They don't want any of that stuff. They just want to kill it. They want to strangle American media and let us be swamped by the Americans. They said that while I'm almost certain about this. They'll have said that while in the background they were saying to each other, right, how are we going to announce the climb down on this? What do you think of that? What do you think of the morality of a group of people that does that kind of thing? The cynicism of that. It's just impossible to even imagine doing that from my perspective. It is so unpleasant. It's so filthy to do that kind of thing. But to the liberals, this is second nature. This is like, oh, great, this is an opportunity. So we'll back down. How long do we want to attack the Conservatives for being anti-Quebec and anti-Canadian? How long should we give it a week? Yeah, let's do it for a week, where we'll just attack. We'll ignore the question and we'll just attack the Tories and make it seem like they hate Canada and Quebec, and then we'll back down on the 3rd of June. Sound like a plan? How can you respect these people? Seriously.
Well, I'll quote Melissa Lantsman, they have no shame bone. They obviously don't. They'll do anything. I mean, the objective is power, and to get power, step on the throats of the Conservatives. Step on the throats of the Conservatives and use your media machine to do the job. And we're going to show you evidence of that as well. And then
who else are they stepping on the throats of, though? They're stepping on the throats of Canadians. They're taking the piss out of Canadians because they're putting on an infantile show for the Canadians. This is a farce. It's not real. They've put on a show to fool Canadians. You know, is that something that you do when you respect people, or the opposite?
Here's my pitch to the American government. Help Canadian media free themselves from Liberal government intervention. Have them kill Bill C-18 and have them stop funding media in Canada. That's the help we need. We need a free and independent media here in Canada. They're not going to do it on their own. They're going to need their arm twisted. And you're the only one that seems can twist their arms, because we've been begging, we've been crying, we've been whining, we've been sending letters, we've been doing everything we can. Nothing. Help. Elon Musk, help. Somebody help. Because Canada deserves a free and independent media. Canada deserves the truth. And you're sure not going to get it from the rest of them. We got a little clip here from Melanie Jolie in the House of Commons here on, you know, the best deal ever. Like, I don't even know how to keep up with these people.
The Honourable Member for Bellies-Chambly. Well, we were promised that in June 2025, the tariff crisis would be fixed, but it's been a failure. But it's not the Prime Minister's fault, it's the fault of Donald Trump. 1 year of excuses later, we're at the same point, and the Prime Minister now wants a 16-year agreement. I agree, that's fine, except that it's certainly going to take a little bit more than 2 weeks to get it. In the meantime, will the government help small and medium-sized businesses with wage subsidies that would preserve expertise and jobs in Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we are there for our businesses, particularly our SMEs, in Quebec and across the country. And a month ago, we announced new funding, $1.5 billion for the steel, aluminum, and copper sectors. I've been in contact with many players in Quebec and across the country. They are very happy with our aid measures. And in the meantime, what we're doing, while the Minister of Canada-U.S. Relations is in Washington, we are going to be there for not just any agreement, but a good agreement. The Honourable Member for Bellies-Chambly. In all of that, there's not what everybody on the ground is asking for, a wage subsidy program, which would maintain jobs, it would preserve expertise in businesses, and it would mean that foreign workers wouldn't have to be sent home. We could keep their expertise, but there's nothing on that subject, nothing for those businesses. By the same token, in the meantime, our forestry sector is in danger and our sawmills are closing. Will the government, in the same spirit, apply the cost-neutral solution proposed by the forestry sector to buy back softwood lumber exports? The Honourable Government House Leader. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, we are going to be there for our forestry sector, as we have been there for the aluminum and auto sectors and the steel sector. We are facing headwinds right now. in the trade relationship with the United States, but we're always going to be there to help people. And as proof of that, the Prime Minister is in Quebec today, or rather will be in Quebec later today, to speak about investments of billions of dollars in...
That's good. There's just some trinkets they dole out to their favorites. I don't know why copper needs anything. Copper's like trading at like $6 a pound. Like it's some of the highest we've seen in copper forever. Copper should be fine. Copper's a U.S. price. That's a commodity that trades in the world. But yeah, it's the smaller businesses that are suffering. We're seeing that with record closures, record bankruptcies, and all that kind of stuff. It's again, podium stuff, but the real mechanics, people are suffering. We see it in the unemployment numbers. We see it in the business foreclosures. We see it in the general economy itself.
Yeah. I just, my only comment on that is, and you're not going to like it, I'm gunning for your boy Blanchette. But he's there, you know, he's complaining about, you know, we need to deal with the Americans and sort it out. What is probably, I think it's fair to say, reason number one that the Americans are upset with with Canada? Is it supply management?
Yep.
I think it is. Who is the number one, you know, thou shalt not pass defender of supply management in Canada? Oh yeah, that guy, Blanchette. But will there be any reflection on that from Mr. Blanchette? I can already tell you, no.
One of the biggest ailments here in the Canadian economy has been the Liberal policy of unfettered immigration, temporary foreign workers, and foreign students that are allowed to work. They pushed out unemployment numbers, banging on the door of 20% for our youth. That's 15 to 24-year-olds. Less access to healthcare. And the Canadian public paid for that and continues to pay for that. And Mark Carney said that yesterday. We're not going to play the clip again. We played that clip yesterday where he said, like a lot of the, lower immigration is actually hurting, GDP in the economy. So yeah, so I mean, you talked about that many times. Is like, one of the reasons Trudeau was doing all this immigration. He was trying to get the GDP numbers up, but that didn't work because it was all low-skilled workers. Low-skilled workers.
It's a way to juice the GDP figures, but obviously, as we've seen and as we pointed out many times, when you do that, you also kill the GDP per capita figures. And slowly but surely, more curious Canadians, more intelligent Canadians, figured out that that was a better measure of prosperity than the GDP figures that the Liberals were always going on about. And when you looked at the per capita, it was like, oh, hold on. Maybe this immensely stupid policy of infinity immigration is not actually a good idea for Canadians, even if it allows the Liberals to stand up in the House of Commons and lie about how prosperous we are, because GDP increased 0.6% in the second quarter of 2018 or some bollocks like that.
Put up the second tweet there from Michelle Rimple-Garner. The winners in this temporary foreign workers bonanza, Tim Hortons, A&Ws, in telecoms. We even saw Rogers Communications make out like bandits with it because they got to sell a bunch of cheap cell phones to people. Who paid for it? Canadian public. Another winner, Conestoga College. We bring that up all the time. Who paid for that? The community of Conestoga. That's who paid for that. Who won in that? The president of Conestoga College with a $600,000 salary. And then he's riding off into the sunset with a $3 million severance package. Who pays for that still? Canadians that go hungry every night. All Liberal policy as they were playing with the immigration numbers. And they're saying they toned them down, but they're marginally turned down. They should be abolished right now. No temporary foreign workers until youth unemployment is below 9%. None, zero, nada, squat. If you cared about Canada, that's the easiest thing in the world to do. Scrap it until youth unemployment is below 9%. And to top it off, we talked about this yesterday in Blacklock's story. They spent $1.6 billion on the temporary foreign worker program. That's what the government spent on this program. While Canadians go hungry, while the youth go unemployed. These are their priorities. These are their priorities. Who benefits? Again, the few benefit and the population pays the price. These are the facts. They're right there. I don't know how you defend it.
Facts are out of fashion, mate.
Apparently. And here in committee, this is even with tradespeople when they said they needed temporary foreign workers for tradespeople. Listen to this.
In 2025, there were 126,000 unemployed skilled trade workers in Canada. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, your government issued 125,000 temporary foreign worker permits in tier 0 to 3, which includes skilled trades. So can you not see that there's a major problem in having removed union consultation from the issuance of TFWs?
Our government has taken significant action in reducing temporary foreign workers across the country. And I would say, first of all, we're down 70% in low-wage positions and 50% in overall in terms of the use of temporary foreign workers. We are also working, as you know, with provinces and territories on breaking down labor mobility barriers that allow for people who have those skills to take advantage of.
You can't move if your job has been taken by a temporary foreign worker. And I gave you the numbers, they almost match. This is deeply concerning to me. Construction building trade unions call the temporary foreign worker program a way of low wage to exclude Canadian workers. What I'm pointing out is a problem. You're pointing to something that's totally different. I don't understand why you can't say, look, I agree it's a problem. We shouldn't have 126,000 unemployed.
That's good. I mean, the evidence is there and all this stuff, the incompetence is so evident. The incompetence of these ministers is so evident. Zero, not cutting back, zero. Cut it back to zero. You've made a bad choice. The Canadian population pays the price for your bad policy. People need to demand better.
But, yeah, I don't know when we're going to get to this poll, but they're not.
No, it's going to be shocking.
They want more liberals.
Shocking. And here's the thing. We still don't have labor mobility across Canada. Yet a temporary foreign worker has more labor mobility than a Canadian does. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Meanwhile, they spent $1.6 billion on this temporary foreign workers program. Again, we did the stories on it. It said Tim Hortons and them were lobbying these ministers, like using the ministers as their HR department to get cheap labor. And a UN organization said it was like slave labor in Canada. And that's underneath Canada. That's under the Liberal government policies, supported by the NDP, by the way. That's supposed to protect the worker. But look at this.
Good one.
Cabinet shelved as too costly a plan to develop a new index to raise seniors' pensions. You can't even make this stuff up. It was estimated the additional program would cost about $62 million in 2021, rising to $308 million in 2024, with costs ongoing and growing each year. And the Liberal Party said that's going to cost too much. So no pension for you. And I think it worked out to about $25 a year for a pensioner. No money for seniors that have worked here all their lives and paid taxes all their lives. No money for you. How are you not getting this? How are you not getting this? But there's $1.6 billion for the temporary foreign workers program, plus all the costs that went to the Canadian public at the benefit of the few that made out like bandits. Like, there should be lawsuits. There should be lawsuits against Tim Hortons, A&W, and telecoms, and the cabinet ministers. I know they're protected for bad policy, but they should go after those businesses for what they cost the Canadian public. Meanwhile, pensioners are told to pound sand. Costs too much. We don't have $25 for you.
Around $10 million budgeted, $10 billion budgeted for foreign aid, which has been shown again and again to be squirreled away, like corrupted
NGOs, NGOs.
Like waste on things like, yeah, you can just read the description and just go, all right, that's an obvious waste. That's absolutely stupid. And like going to places like China and thinking that you can get around the Chinese Communist Party and somehow like seed respect for human rights and stuff in the communist China. Yeah, nice one. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
but then also like $25 billion to Ukraine. I mean, that is not me trying to attach. I'm not saying one thing either way about Ukraine here, the Ukraine-Russia thing. I'm just saying that is a huge sum of money to be spending on a foreign country while telling seniors in your own country that they can't have a tiny little raise to their pensions.
How many Canadians died on waiting lists? How many Canadians died in waiting rooms, in emergency rooms, because of the flooded immigration in this country? And if you dared say anything, Mark Miller called you a racist, right? We played that yesterday from Rupert, what's his name? Rupert Lowe?
Low.
What you need to say back when these people say that to you, I don't care. You lie, you lie, you lie, you lie, and you continually lie. Why does anything that come out of your mouth even worth listening to? The Conservatives calling on Mark Carney to show a real plan for Canadians. I'd say that'd be a good idea. A real plan. This is let's play this clip here.
Carney, you know, this grand illusionist Prime Minister Mark Carney sold himself and said that Canada would have the fastest growing economy in the G7. What he actually delivered was the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. In fact, he drove Canada's economy into a recession, the only G7 leader to do so. And all the other G7 countries face the exact same external pressures, external factors, and the same tariffs. But Mark Carney is the only leader out of all those G7 countries that drove the economy into a recession. He's also responsible for the 120,000 jobs that were lost in the first 3 months of this year. He gave Canadians the second worst unemployment rate in the entire G7, the worst household debt, and the worst housing costs in the entire G7. Food prices have skyrocketed, and he refuses to reverse all the bad Liberal policies that put Canadians in this position today. In fact, our economy has shrunk 3 out of the 4 quarters since he's been Prime Minister. There's been 5 consecutive quarters of business investment decline, and $20 billion of net investment has fled the country since he's become Prime Minister. So we're asking Mark Carney, come clean, Carney. What is the plan? Conservatives are calling inside the House for Mark Carney to present a real plan for Canadians.
And I'll give you some points on food inflation and simple ways they can fight food inflation tomorrow with a stroke of a pen. If he gave a damn about Canadians, scrap the industrial carbon tax, number 1. Scrap the diesel tax completely, because diesel is the most important fuel for our food industry here in Canada. Scrap it. Scrap the packaging and the plastics ban. Scrap them both. Right now, scrap them. And scrap supply management. That'll pave the road for a deal with CUSMA and reduce costs for Canadians immensely. All those things could be done tomorrow. Why they aren't being done is because I don't know why. The supply management one obviously is there's a big cartel, the most powerful cartel in Canada. The industrial carbon tax is something that Mark Carney is part of his religion, if you read the book Values, and it benefits companies like Brookfield. The packaging and plastics thing, that has probably the ideology of the other liberal lunatics in his party. Say lunatics? Extremists. That's better. I shouldn't say lunatics. That's mean. And
that's very offensive to lunatics.
Scrapping the diesel tax is a no-brainer. Transport trucks, trains, tractors, and the ocean liners all burn diesel. that move our food around. Scrap the tax on diesel. It would reduce inflation. You're going to see the inflation numbers come in the next month. And guess what? They're going to be higher. Why? Energy. It's not rocket science. Ian and I can figure this out. And if you can't do it, just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. And as far as the recession definition goes, as we're seeing everybody, they're more worried about what defines a recession instead of trying to fix it. But here's Mark Carney himself explaining when he was the Bank of England governor what a recession is. But Mark Carney failed at the Bank of England. They called him the unreliable boyfriend. He failed at Net Zero Alliance. He failed at GFANS. And he's failing as the Canadian Prime Minister right now.
He was such a profound failure that he was given a job at the UN, which is like,
that's
only given to the greatest failures of all.
But I mean, in Canadian media, laud him as the biggest economic genius there is. But look at the failures, the lineup of failures.
Yeah.
Play.
Slowing, and you talk about the possibility of what you call a technical recession. Now, again, to people watching this programme who don't know what a technical recession is or might feel like, it may not sound too bad, a technical recession. It's only a technical recession, it's not a real one. What would it feel like?
Well, look, the technical definition of a technical recession is just that. It's 2 quarters of flat or negative growth. So it doesn't necessarily have the broader connotation. So to be absolutely clear, what our judgment is as a risk is that growth will be materially slower and inflation notably higher in event of a leave, because...
There you go, CBC, right there.
Right from the horse's mouth. But that was a recession that he was that was politically useful for him and his own personal political views, namely his opposition to Brexit. That's what that was about. So it depends. This is what I mean. Like when I attacked economics, the often hilarious profession, so-called, of economics, when I said there is no such thing, there's no such thing as the definition of a recession. It's kind of up to you to some extent. But as Carney himself said there, the closest thing we have to a definition that people agree on is 2 consecutive quarters where the economy shrinks, the GDP shrinks. Therefore, by that reckoning, by Mark Carney's reckoning, yes, Canada is in a recession. And I'm not seeing anybody come at the argument from that angle. People are just saying, oh, no, actually, we need to look at other factors. So it doesn't really count. It's not really a recession because we need to look at some other data. That's not an argument. If they came out and made the argument that economics is, to a pretty big extent, just opinion, it's just kind of like politics wrapped up in numbers, and some people call that recession, others don't. There's no such thing as, there is no definition of a recession. If they did that, I'd be like, all right, well, that's true at least. But they're not doing that. They're trying to pretend that, like, nah, this isn't really a recession because inflation is not high. So it's like, come on, shut up.
There's a lot of the media and all the admirers of Mark Carney there said that he's like playing 3D chess against the American government and Trump. Well, for playing 3D chess, he's about 1 move away from stagflation. And stagflation is a nasty, nasty beast that is it is so hard to beat out. It's like a wildfire at like a category 10 wildfire. It's hard to beat back, especially with the policies that are in place. And what is that? What causes stagflation? Let's just take a look at some of the things that are in there. High inflation, we're going to get that because of energy, even though the Liberals told us for years that energy has nothing to do with inflation. Now they say it does. High inflation. High unemployment. I don't know. Do we have high unemployment? 6.7% here in Canada, almost double the Americans. And the one that's more worrisome is our youth unemployment, 15 to 24, the future of Canada. Because if the future leaves to go look for jobs elsewhere, that makes it worse in Canada. And that in some areas of Canada is banging on the door 20%. So we got high unemployment. and a weak economy. We just had 2 quarters of negative growth. We have $1 trillion that has leaked south of the border. If we do not get a Kuzma deal, checkmate is in play. I just don't know how they go around it. With all these policies, like, I mean, it's all hands on deck, emergency meeting, yet they don't want to have it. You know, they just say that the Conservatives are playing politics. You need to scrap the industrial carbon tax right now. You need to get out of the way of the pipeline. You need to unleash the beasts. Let Saskatchewan and Alberta go. Put them on the ice. Put me in, coach. Put them on the ice. You need to tell David Eby to call an election. Let the Canadian public decide whether you can block Canada's prosperity or not. Scrap supply management and fast track stuff. And if you can't do it, get out of the way. Just get out of the way.
But I've said this a couple of times, and I really believe this in the core of my heart, that these people who rule over us, they don't want power for any particular objectives. You know, they don't have a list of objectives. They want power because it's power, and they want power. That's it. It's a circle. It's completely like a self-sustaining motivation. They want power because they want power. That's it. They just want to be in power. They don't really know why. They just know that they need to be in power because that, I don't know, that makes them happy or something like that. That makes them feel like they're important, that they've succeeded. It's a kind of primal urge they have. They don't want to achieve anything particularly. I certainly don't get that impression because none of them seem to have any principles. They don't seem to have any sort of like moral core. It's just power for its own sake. So you're saying if you can't do it, get out of the way. There's no chance they're going to do that because that would mean relinquishing power, and that is their North Star.
You're going to have to pry power from them, from their cold, dead hands. You're going to have to like rip them out of there because it is this, the money is that what they're after, the power and the money. Because look who's benefiting. Look who's filling their pockets. Look who's stuffing their pockets. And they use TDS for it. And this is just as a joke. In the White House there, they asked Dr. Oz, is there a cure for TDS? Because maybe this is for all the CBC viewers that come here and want to raise crap. This is for you. This is how you cure your TDS. Listen up.
What's your question?
Thank you.
Very
Do you
quick.
have any medical advice for the Americans out there that are suffering from a very serious ailment called Trump derangement syndrome?
I am concerned about folks who have focused their entire life energy on dislike of the president. It's disheartening to see people lost in that way, but you know, it's treating stupid is really hard, and that becomes a real problem. And these.
That's good. Treating stupid is really hard. Anyway, I just did that for levity.
Well, I mean, look, anyone watching that and feeling a little bit disgusted by it, let's imagine that we have some big anti-Trumpy people, anti-American, whatever, in this channel watching that, and they're like absolutely disgusted by that. Now maybe you can understand why the likes of Jim and myself are disappointed in Canadian journalists when they stand up and ask the equivalent questions to their lord and master Mark Carney. Just how immensely boring it is to see these questions asked in a servile fashion, like softball questions, to try and give the master a platform to jump off and chat bollocks.
Yep. Here's CBC hard at work. CBC does their, their pieces on this and advertised prominently on its website, defending the Liberal Party line that Canada's recession announced by Stats Canada this week is not really a recession. Or if it is, it's not very serious. The state broadcast, whose funding was protected and boosted by the Liberal Party after the last election, begins explaining that Donald Trump wasted little time taking a shot at Canada following the news of recession. It's just feeding TDS. It's not allowing people to think, right? You're just like, oh, yeah, maybe it's a recession. Maybe, what it is. But here, look at this. Look at this. Here, get angry. Get angry. It's the policies of 11 years that put us here. The 11 years of policies that put us at the mercy of America. If we had the Northern Gateway pipeline, we wouldn't be at their mercy.
No, imagine the revenues. That was such an fantastic project for the Canadian economy. Because not only would it have meant more oil sold, just in absolute terms, it would also have increased the price of Western Canadian Select. Like it would have. I mean, as far as investments go, how can you get better than that? Imagine an investment that increases all your lots of your other investments just by existing. It's like, God. Sometimes in the dark, lonely nights, I think about that, and it's very, very, very hard to forgive the people that killed that project, isn't it?
I mean, do you want to have relationships with people that lie to you constantly? Like, I mean, the mainstream media, that's all they do is spin. They spin narrative. Bring your friends, your relatives, everybody here to this show. And if you point out where we're lying, we'd be glad to discuss it. But here is a comparison. This is the food professor putting this out. When Harper in 2015 had -8, 0.8, down negative, and in Q2, 0.5, the Bank of Canada said, yep, that's a technical recession. Under Carney, -1% and -0.1%. No, that shouldn't be used alone to define. I mean, it's just the contradictions are. I thought the Bank of Canada wasn't supposed to be a political body. Isn't that what they said? No political interference? It's odd, isn't it? Odd.
You've got to love that, haven't you? I mean, add it up as well. So the top one is 1.3 when you add up both of those quarters. The bottom one is 1.1. So it's a difference of 0.2 percentage point. Apparently that's enough to make it not a recession.
And this piece in the Financial Post here, it really sums it up. It doesn't really matter whether you want to call it a recession or not, because it is if you just use the old benchmarks. But the economy doesn't look good. That's plain and simple. That's the unemployment rate is high, 6.7%. That's just the number they have. There's a lot of people that aren't being recorded in there because they stopped looking for work. It's a lot higher than 6.7%. And youth unemployment is absolutely troubling. It's absolutely massively troubling. Business failures, near record numbers. That's like food bank usage, record numbers. 11% of Canada below the poverty line. $1 trillion leaked south, including the leader's money himself. Like, I mean, here's one from Melissa Mabarki here, and I think we're going to actually ask her to come on, I think. South Korea exploring ways to more than triple imports of crude oil from Canada to 16 million barrels this year, making the third largest export destination for Canadian crude. South Korea also aims to import 3.4 million metric tons of LNG. There is no problem with customers. There is no problem with product. There is only one problem: liberal policy. That's it. That's the only problem. Right now, even though Mark Carney has still not green-lighted this pipeline, they're talking about it, and the Liberal Party is self-imploding on itself. They block prosperity for Canadians. Canadians go to bed hungry at night. How many Canadians, how many children have to suffer at the hands of this party? That tells you, like we played that clip for you a couple times, I'm not going to play it again, of Mark Holland saying you drive in your car that the world's going to blow up tomorrow or burn down. These are the people who are in charge of your prosperity, of your future, of your ability to put food in the bellies of your children. These are the people in charge. And then here you go. Liberal Party at 50% as party hits popularity levels last seen Trudeau's peak in 2015. Make it make sense to me. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people say these polls are rigged and stuff like that. And I mean, there's some proof of that, and not in the rigging part, but in they get a lot of money. Like Ian and I have showed you, some of these pollsters are getting millions of dollars You know, 264,000 for this poll, 1.3 million for a focus group, another 600,000 for this poll, and all of a sudden, you know, most of the polls favor the Liberals. I just don't see it. What are these people looking at? Get them to come here and watch the show.
I think part of the reason is that they're not looking at this. They're not looking at this stuff. They're not actually really engaged. I get the distinct impression, and this has been true forever, really, hasn't it? People don't follow the sort of day-to-day politics, do they? And nobody does that, really, except freaks like us. You know, we are absolutely a minority. Most people, it's just like, it really is just vibes. And Carney's vibes, I guess, are acceptable to these people. They think he looks professional, statesmanlike, dignified, serious, all the rest of it. And then they look at Polyev and they just, I guess, think that he's a whiner. That's basically what the polls have shown again and again and again and again. And that's it. I suppose for a lot of people, that's as much time and effort that they're willing to put into politics. Just that. Whereas the really sad and painful truth is, when you spend more time on it and look at it more closely, you see that the vibes that Carney is associated with are they're not really earned. It's not really true. It's not really who he is. But that requires a lot of effort, doesn't it? You've got to really quite obsessively follow Canadian politics to see that.
And this from BNN Bloomberg saying that Canada faces a challenge, or the Feds face a challenge, showing the U.S. that Canada is strong and making Canadians believe it. Like, I'll say, right? Like, because they're not stupid down there. They're not stupid. They don't have the world's largest economy, the world's reserve currency, the world's largest military, the world's most powerful military, because they're stupid.
They also, you know, the American people, we're talking about like engagement or whatever, how engaged you are with politics also depends on how diverse and vibrant and good your media is. And the American media, obviously, it's very far from perfect, but it's significantly, dramatically superior to the Canadian media in basically every single way. So the American electorate has the opportunity to be way more informed than the Canadian electorate. So, and in America as well, it really kind of is a bottom-up system in many ways. The nature of the party primaries and midterms and all the rest of it, the way that it works, there's a lot of pressure on senators and representatives and stuff to listen to their
people,
constituents. Yeah. So if they're complaining about something that involves Canada in some way, yeah, I mean, it's different in America, isn't it? It's not like it is here.
Well, if you look at media in Canada compared to the United States, they have a very diverse landscape. But one of the things they do have is freedom of speech, and it's absolute down there. We don't have that here, because this channel here skyrocketed, I think, since January. It took off like crazy. And then all of a sudden you see all these independents out there, Jasmine Lane and all the rest of them are saying, our traffic got cut in half. Yeah, because they put the screws, and they put the screws to us too. So even though you start to gain traction, the government can control the levers by phoning up YouTube and doing different things in Canada. The Online News Act, they took away our audience of over 200,000. They suppress independent freedom of expression, freedom of the press here in Canada. That is absolutely one of the biggest things. Down there, they have such a diverse landscape. We're going to show you some of that later on here. But they have a very diverse media landscape. And you could say, some people say CNN is garbage. Some people say Fox News is garbage, and they're on two different ends of the spectrum. We don't have a Fox News here. We don't have a national, we don't have a GB News. We don't have a national broadcaster here in Canada that isn't subservient to the Liberal Party.
Well, I mean, we basically have nobody covering politics in the House of Commons, at least, in this country, who is willing to ask a hard question of Mark Carney.
It's obvious.
Like that video, just watch that video yourself, Mark Carney today, go on CPAC's website and have a look at it. Look at them be shushed. And then they all, like little kids at school, sitting down with their legs crossed, they all shut up and the master speaks. You just don't see that in democracies. You don't see that in serious countries. I'm sorry. That's pretty much unique to Canada. That does not happen anywhere else in the free world, but here.
Well, we're waiting for our success when David Eby attacks us or the Liberals come and attack us, because they won't come on here. So I guess, we'll wait for that. And you can help by promoting this, sharing it far and wide, getting a bigger voice. We're going to work as hard as we can, and we're going to reach out to different people because we're going to try and grow this. We're going to try because we're going to fight for Canada. Listen here to this gaslighting here from one of our favorites, Anita Anand.
Canada is the fastest growing economy, secondly speaking, in the G7 this year and next. And in the first 4 months of this year alone, we secured more than $10 billion in commercial deals for Canada. Is the
That's good. Right into the wind, right? Just spitting right into the wind of truth. Just, hey, just.
My reaction to that was, and I realized that as I was doing it, my reaction to that was the exact same as when like a hornet flies in your face. And like a massive killer wasp flies in your face. You're just like, like get out of my face. Like that's the effect she has on me. I mean, and I'm telling you that with complete honesty, Anita. Really, you need to work on your voice, your cadence, your pitch. Everything about the way you speak is, you're like a wasp. Nobody wants to be like a wasp.
And if you want to get angry, here's one to get angry about, because as like the threat of the recession here, you need something to bolster yourself. Let's go to Quebec and announce a $10 billion deal. Why not? Hey, we just announced one of the largest infrastructure investments in Quebec's history, $10 billion for the next decade to build more homes, better transit, and health infrastructure for the growing communities. Do you hear that, Alberta? Do you hear that, Saskatchewan? Do you hear that, the rest of Canada? Quebec. Somebody asked a question on it, actually. Listen.
Since the Premier said twice that Quebec is getting more than its population share of funding, who's getting less?
Of funds that were available and an opportunity to move them forward, given the priorities of the government of Quebec, given the priorities of the economy here, economy across. So, we've been ready, and we put our best people on it, as did the government here, and worked very hard and unblocked these 5 accords to the $10 billion. Now, look, the government, there's various ways to assign, from the federal government's perspective, distribute funds. Part of it is determined by opportunity, as you would appreciate.
Since the Premier
That's it. That's the word salad answer right there. Why did Quebec get $10 billion? What about the rest of Canada? Well, there's let me start with this. Factor one is, let's see now, in a moment of truth, Quebec has most of the votes. Come on, let's get serious here.
Quebec is like, I was saying earlier that the Liberals are just power for the sake of power. If they have one actual reason to exist, it's for the sake of Quebec. It really isn't, and particularly Montreal. But even then, that's not. I don't know how true that is, but that's the closest thing to a kind of mission statement that they have. Protect Quebec at all costs. Make sure that Quebec remains the cockpit of Canada indefinitely.
So when you take on this new project that'll never get built anyway, it'll be, if it does get built, it'll be like 10 times over cost. You haven't done anything yet, but you've got a plan to do something. The Alto bureaucrats, they gave themselves a bonus already. For doing what? $2.7 million in bonuses they already doled out. You can put up the next slide. That's from the government documents. $2.7 million. Whose wife works there?
Which my wife works there?
Whose wife works there?
François-Philippe Champagne.
They don't even care. They don't even care to hide.
We're getting a little bit extra this year, but we've been working hard,
My mom says we're going to be all right. She look at our bank account. It looks pretty good.
They live in an alternate reality, don't they? That's what they should call this.
The money show up. We do really good. I don't know what Canadians complaining about. Mr. Bubbles, yeah. Mr. Bubbles, all right.
Big Bubbles. Been quiet lately, though, although he did do a little piece to camera. He did do something yesterday, I think, but...
From Blacklock's, public is still not sold on EVs. Canadians remain skeptical of electric cars' reliability despite years of federal promotions, including that $5,000 rebate. And that's from the in-house research from the Department of Natural Resources. Uncertainty persists around issues such as charging capacity, maintenance costs, and resale value. It's because, like if you really wanted to promote EVs, like if you really wanted to promote EVs, like if this is what you really wanted to do, just unleash Tesla. Because that's the only one's worth buying. That's it. And shut up and get out of the way. Stop calling him a fascist and a Nazi and all these other stupid terms.
Well, it's certainly the most successful one that isn't from China.
Well, it's the only one that makes money.
We shouldn't count those.
It's the only profitable EV on the planet. The only one that makes money. BYD still doesn't make a profit. It's the only profitable EV on this planet.
And also, even if BYD does report a profit anytime soon, it's not the same thing. Because it's a product of the Chinese Communist Party system, which isn't exactly a free and fair market, is it? But I mean, certainly the rebates, take any sort of taxes off it, that's the way to do it, isn't it? I just can't believe that they thought the best way to do it was to persecute car manufacturers. That was good. That was going to do it. It's just, they just seem to get, fundamentally, we talk around this all the time, but fundamentally, they just seem to not understand human nature. That's what it comes down to. They just don't understand people. They don't understand humans.
And the other thing is, there's two things going against Canada as far as EVs go. And do you have your globe handy? Do you have it? Do you have your globe handy? And we're going to do the...
I don't know, KGB going to censor it? No, it's not. Not this time.
Consult the globe.
No, it's still... Africa is censored. Look at that racism.
You got to back up a bit, I think. You're in the fog zone there. You got to put it by your face closer.
Maybe like this.
It wants to focus on your face, I think. It just wants your face to be in focus.
Yeah, what if I just fully give you globe? Give you all the globe. No. There you go. That's sort of okay, isn't it?
Anyway, you get the idea of the globe. Canada, second largest landmass. And a very
working now, look.
There you go. There you go. Look at that. Boom.
I'm going to hold it close like it's my precious
So Canada's second largest landmass, and also very low population for that second largest landmass. So big distances between cities. Big distances between cities. And also, what else has Canada got going for it? Brr! It's cold in there. Right?
Also this.
Right? So a lot of people, unless it's suited for you. Like I drive a Tesla, and I've been driving one for I think 3 years now. I think it's the best vehicle ever. But it's suited to the needs. If I was still living in high-level Alberta or Thompson, lived up in Thompson, Manitoba, lived in high-level Alberta, Fort Vermilion, all those places, I probably wouldn't drive one, right? I'd be driving a pickup truck. A pickup truck.
They are, there's a Chinese company, I think, that claims that they've already cracked this, but generally speaking, they are trying to figure that out as well, aren't they? With the cold situation.
Somebody said it's a racist globe. I don't know what that means, but anyway. But as far as Tesla goes,
it was me that said that because it was blurring out Africa, but I wasn't saying the globe was racist. I don't know if I used those words. It's the KGB.
There you go.
Or the CIA, or whoever it is that's hacking this feed.
Again, I'm just talking about their policies. Like the liberals, they hate even mentioning Tesla or Elon Musk. Like to them, it's like. But Tesla's, just for information, Tesla's sales in Japan up 182% year over year. In Australia and New Zealand, best-selling vehicle of any kind, month of May. In France, the sales are skyrocketing. Like Teslas are selling like crazy, selling like hotcakes. And in Kazakhstan, when's the last time you were in Kazakhstan? You got that one for Kazakhstan? They're driving, the cops are driving, or emergency response vehicles, they're driving the cyber trucks.
That's pretty hilarious, isn't it? That the one that they've painted.
I actually got offered a job in Kazakhstan once. And I was just like, I'm going to pass. That was a mining gig. I'm going to pass.
Kazakhstan is like, I don't know if you're not up on your memes apparently, because Kazakhstan has become this like obsession for some young people, and it's like they're memeing it into an obsession. So actually, Kazakhstan's reputation going up.
So the problem is, though, in Kazakhstan for a mining job, the mine is not in the middle of a city. The mine is in the middle of nowhere because the resource isn't decided upon like, oh, we should put the mine next to Vancouver. It's like, no, it's in like Thompson, Manitoba.
Yeah, they don't put it in Astana.
Don Davies, the NDP's former leader, he's still leader in Parliament because Avi doesn't have a job or a seat, introduced a bill designed to force MPs to switch parties. That's unusual. We have so many leaders now in this country that don't have a seat. Isn't that right? We have Caroline Finley, doesn't have a seat. Emily Lowen, leader of the Green Party, doesn't have a seat. Avi Lewis doesn't have a seat. Interesting, no? Pierre
Somehow Elizabeth May does, though, even though she kept saying she was going to retire and let someone else take over, but she's still got one.
Don Davies says that he's introduced a bill to force MPs to switch parties to face voters. Here's a clip from Don Davies.
You can do it. Just put the test to your voters, and then you'll know. You know, it's funny. Every person who crosses the floor generally comes out and says this is what their voters want. But every one of them, to a person, refuses to put that to the actual test of their voters. I think there's a fundamental breakdown there. So
the Bloc's bill repealing the Clarity Act and recognizing the 50+1?
I'll leave that to Avi Lewis to comment on. He'll be the spokesperson.
That's good. And then they asked Chris D'Entremont what he thinks about Don Davies' bill. Down here. Way down there with the friendly giant.
If the NDP's proposed ban on floor crossing without democratic accountability?
You know, I think it's worthy of a discussion, but it comes from a party that nobody wants to transfer over to. So, you know, I'll take it for what that's worth.
Thanks.
He's sort of chirpy mood, isn't he? Pretty happy.
Yeah.
Who said treason doesn't make you happy? Just kidding, Chris. Just kidding.
Well, we've asked Don Davies to come on the show, so see what he says.
Double D. I'm not sure. Not sure we'll see him, but that would be nice.
Well, he's got a bill. We just want to ask questions. The chief of the Assembly of First Nations attacked Alberta independence again, this time during a meeting with King Charles himself in London. Cindy Woodhouse-Nepiak said the First Nations were partners in the creation of Canada, and that relationship will persist as long as the sun shines and grass grows and river flows. And says that if they want to leave, they can go, but they can't take any land with them. I don't think they want to take any land with them because you can't actually pick it up and take it. They just
I'm sure there would be fury if they did. Can you imagine if they
get a shovel out, just like taking this with me? That's like
just
looks like that.
Also, I find it funny. These comments. We've got a beautiful country. If you don't want to be a part of it, you're free to leave. It just we don't hear this language very often. I'm sorry to say, do we? From Cindy Woodhouse-Nepiak. We don't usually hear that. We're usually being told about how Canada's like, you know, not being very nice.
Dystopian.
Not a good guy. But apparently Canada's great.
So it turns out Canada is purchasing some HIMARS rocket systems for the United States. Remember, we weren't going to give them any money. Didn't Mark Carney just say that? We used to give them 70 cents on the dollar on that. Now we're not going to give them any money. Looks like we just gave them more money. I mean, I think we should, but I'm just saying, like, what you say out of your mouth is completely different from the actions that are taken here. We can play this clip. Just don't turn the sound on here. We bought some of those, which is probably going to be a lot more effective than what we have right now. So they acquired 26 HIMARS rocket launchers and long-range precision missiles capable of striking targets more than 300 kilometers away.
We love a good HIMAR, don't we?
Yeah. Here's a little more on Bill C-22. More reaction on that. I think this one's going to get scrapped too. And this is Michael Geist putting this out as well. And this is from Signal in committee hearing. Listen to this.
It is because of how we operate at the frontier of global cybersecurity that we understand intimately how technical architecture protects human safety and how easily badly drafted laws can dismantle these critical protections. In its current form, Bill C-22 would convert the everyday tools Canadians rely on into a sprawling, insecure surveillance apparatus. To be upfront, Signal will not build infrastructure into our service. And we will also not build surveillance into our service. If we are ever forced to choose between betraying the people who rely on us and leaving a market, we will leave.
Do you hear that, Liberals? And that's been echoed by Apple and Google and the rest. So if Mark Miller and those guys get their way, Canada will be sitting here in a mud hut with a pen and paper. Well, I don't even know if we're allowed to have a pen. Maybe we'll have to use charcoal. Well, we won't be able to burn wood because that'll create CO2.
Yeah, charcoal. What are you thinking, mate? What are you thinking?
You'll have to bite the tip of your finger off and use your blood and inscribe it onto a wall or something.
What's the environmentally friendly way to write things down? I'm not sure what it would be. Can't use a biro because that's plastic, obviously. I'm struggling here. I don't actually know.
You can bite the tip of your finger off and you can use what comes out the other end. There's a lot of ink in there, at least for a while.
Yeah. Or like chew leaves or something and then spit and then draw with like a stick. But then you've obviously got to hurt some leaves to do that, haven't you? So I don't know. Don't know if that's going to work.
And Jason Kenny said John Horgan called David Eby a mud hutter. I never would. But we'd like to have you on, Mr. Eby. Because right here, he's going full MAGA. Even though Mark Carney said MAGA's okay now. But he's going full MAGA. Let's listen to David Eby on the new Conservative leader of British Columbia.
The job that she's applying for, from my perspective, the job that she's applying for right now looks a lot more like mega regional manager than Premier of British Columbia. But I'll stay tuned and hear what her plans are.
Didn't take him long to get that MAGA brush out, eh? He's just like, what do we have in the quiver? That's right, MAGA.
Do you want to know a secret? I'm not privy to this information, but I can guess this with 99% accuracy. That David Eby, over the last couple of days, has sat down in meetings with his little servants and talked about what they were going to call her, what Trump-style nickname they were going to give her. And that's what they decided on. And that's why he said it in such a sort of rehearsed crap way and ended up saying mega instead of MAGA. That's why he mispronounced it, because he's over-rehearsed it. Yeah. And it was like, this is a big moment. It's coming. It's coming. Mega regional manager. I mean, sorry, Dave. Dave, heart to heart. Bro, you're not a very good politician. You really, really aren't very good at this. And as each day goes by, that becomes more and more obvious. And, you know, for your own mental health, I think you should consider something else, another form of employment. Because it's becoming painful to watch him, to see somebody do that, and for it to be so natural, so fake, so obvious. No, it's not working out, Dave.
And it's also blocking prosperity for British Columbia here. How many Canadians need to suffer? How many Canadians need to suffer and go hungry? How many people need to face famine in the world when we had Heather Exner-Perot on? Because you block energy. Because it's you decide what's approved energy and what's not approved energy. Because the Canadians have already voiced their opinion of what they want. The majority of Canadians, including British Columbians, want that pipeline to the West Coast.
Yeah, he represents a fringe view.
Yeah.
But he presents himself. This is his great, the attempt he tries to make, the person he tries to be is like, I'm just common sense, good guy, good feller. I represent everybody. Most folks are behind me. You know, he's trying to be that, like, let's get the adults back in the room kind of thing. And then he spouts a fringe view, a completely marginal view. Like, no, you're an extremist wrapped in a sort of HR manager's personality. And he thinks that if he translates his extremism into HR talk, then somehow people are just going to buy it and think that it's mainstream. But it isn't. It's fringe. And also, again, I have to say, you're not particularly good at it, Mr. Eby. And if, you know, if the BC Conservatives, if they're praying at night, they must be praying that he stays in power. That has to be their sort of number one priority, is to have him stay put.
I mean, they do need him to stay instead of trying to water it down with a more reasonable person for the NDP.
Well, the chap that we interviewed not so long ago, Ravi Parmar, I actually think he would do quite a good job because he's much more mature and adult and likable, dare I say. But it's not him. He's not. It's the other Ravi that wants the job, apparently, isn't it? Ravi Carlon, whatever his name is. And I don't know about him. He kind of looks. I'm not sure about him. I don't know if people would like him. But still, either way, he's the golden goose from the perspective of the BC Conservatives. He has to step up for them from their perspective. I guess.
And credit to Ravi Parmar. He reached out to me. He's like, hey, Jim, I'm going to be in town. Can I come on the show? Like, sure. Right? How many other NDP have we reached out to and can't get even a response? Never mind a yes. Right? We got Selena Robinson on, former NDP. But we've reached out to David Eby several times now. I've interviewed him once. And Brenda Bailey I've interviewed twice. But I mean, it's like next to impossible. They just don't want to answer their bloody emails because they don't believe that they need to be held accountable by media that isn't subservient to them. Here's some reaction from Carrie Lynn Finlay on David Eby's paintbrush.
The NDP is trying to brand you as MAGA North. They say you're an extremist. How do you respond?
Honestly, it makes me laugh. I think this is ridiculous. They are the extremists. They're the ideologues. They're the ones who would rather invest the taxpayer dime on ideology than prosperity for our citizens. And I remember they said that with the, I think it was the Juno News debate, and David Eby said, you know, he praised the two that didn't go, as though we don't need your approval, David, but in any event, and said the rest of us were all pandering to a white supremacist independent news media. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think people buy it. It's not really telling people the truth. It's misrepresenting. And Canadians are not Americans. We have a whole different government system. We have a different way of looking at things that's very Canadian. I'm a Canadian, and it's just, to me, silly to use that kind of extremist language.
There are rumors.
That was quite a calm takedown of
yeah, she's reasonable.
A very stupid, vindictive, and offensive bit of political theatre from David Eby. So credit to her. But I guess that just shows like how little respect they have for David Eby. They just don't care anymore. It's like, even if you say something completely outrageous, like Eby did that, if your opponents don't take you seriously, they're just gonna laugh at you. You know, they're like, come on, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that's at a bad level when it gets to there. Like, you can't even throw defamatory, fake statements, outrageous, incendiary statements at your opponents without them just kind of like laughing at you. You know, you're not doing well if that's where you're at.
She should just own it and come out dancing to YMCA. Just let it go. We've interviewed Carrie Lynn Finlay in the past, and we've reached out again, so we're waiting for her response. So we covered this yesterday. The young man that was stabbed to death there, and this is Nigel Farage here in his they said they got an email there. Listen in to Nigel Farage.
Had an email come through this morning from a senior Hampshire police officer who said, "We are told to police incidents differently according to the ethnicity of those involved." I thought the way the Novak family behaved was with very, very great dignity. I felt desperately sorry for them. But yes, I feel a sense of cold rage at the way the police treated somebody who was stabbed. They didn't believe him. The last words on earth this man heard were his rights being read out to him, all because of a false accusation of racism. And the police have been trained and told you must take that more seriously than anything else. A false accusation of racism counted higher at that moment than somebody who was dying. This is two-tier Britain, and I'm totally opposed to it. I'm opposed to DEI, I'm opposed to positive discrimination. I believe if we're going to live in a free and fair country, everybody must be judged equally on their merits.
Elon Musk put out that tweet yesterday. Rage.
You know, it's not just emails from police or whatever. Like I said yesterday, was it yesterday? As I said the other day, anyway. Yeah, yesterday. It's literally built into the legislation. You don't have to get emails on the QT from like undercover cops or whatever. It's just there in front of you. And they've also had they've had numerous inquiries because there have been a couple of incidents in British history, like the murder of Stephen Lawrence, where there was like a massive hullabaloo about institutional racism and in the police force and stuff like that. Stephen Lawrence was black, by the way. So there's been a lot of talk about racism of that variety, and all kinds of commitments that were made and all kinds of directives that were sent out to British institutions to try and stop them being racist. You know, that was if you've been in Britain or you've been following British politics at any point over the last 20 years or something like that, you're aware of that. It's part of the architecture now. It's part of the legal and cultural and administrative architecture in Britain to constantly think like that, to constantly split people up into race, and to have special care and attention for people that aren't white under the assumption that they are discriminated against sort of systemically. The system is against them. You know, it's everywhere. You don't have to I mean, whatever, he's got this email. I mean, that's very specific information, I suppose. It's still useful. But you don't need that to prove the central contention.
Here's a reaction from Keir Starmer. I don't understand how he's still there. Like, I keep losing money in poly markets on this guy.
There's
bet on him yet, but
Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, is presently waiting to try and win a by-election, and then as soon as he wins, he's going to try and stab Keir in the back. So that's basically what people are waiting for now.
Brutus is on his way. Is that what you're saying?
Waiting for Brutus to ride on in.
Et tu, Brutus? Et tu, Brutus?
Let's go, Burnham.
Let's go,
but
Bruty.
no matter the pain we feel, there is no justification for more violence and disorder. The attacks directed towards police officers in Southampton last night were disgraceful and completely unacceptable. This is a time for serious work, not rage. And let me be clear, we will ensure anyone found engaging in disorder meets the full force of the law, as we have done before.
Is that a World Economic Forum phrase you have to say somewhere in your speech? Let me be clear. That's the setup for the lie. Is that how it works? Let me be clear. Let me be clear. And if this is from the heart, why are you reading like 2 sentences from a document when you could just speak that? Like, I mean, if you can't remember that, what are you doing there?
And why did you get on your knee like a...
Yeah.
I shall not continue with that. But why did you get on your knee and get photographs taken in this bizarre, like freakish, weird photograph? Almost looks like it was taken in a circus of him and Angela Rayner on their knees for the murder of a man in, let's just say, similar circumstances, right? Similar-ish circumstances of a man many thousands of miles away in a Midwestern city in the United States that most people in Britain have absolutely no idea about Many of them never even heard of that place. Why did you do that then for that event? But you didn't do anything like that for Henry Novak. And the same applies for all these hypocrites who've come out and said about Nigel Farage's comment about saying he feels rage. It's so hilarious. Like, so many people have been coming out and attacking Nigel Farage for that. And it turns out that they still have tweets, like on X, in their history where they call for riots and they call for rage in response to the death of George Floyd, thousands of miles away in a different country. They've just not got a leg to stand on. And the argument that they're coming out with now, and Keir Starmer did it in this session here in the House of Commons, the argument is, the parents of Henry Novak, or it was actually his father, came out and said, we don't want this issue to sort of stoke further tensions or anything. We don't want people to fight over this issue, basically. Something along those lines. And he sort of called for peace, as it were. And Keir Starmer's now saying, his father said that, and then you dare stand up and politicize this, Mr. Farage. Since when is that how we conduct ourselves as a democratic society? If somebody connected to an incident that represents institutional corruption and failure that affects the lives of everybody in the country, 70 million bloody people in that country, it affects all of their lives. Since when do we seek permission from the relatives of the person involved in the incident for whether or not we can talk about it, whether or not we can talk about changing the institutions, whether or not we can talk about using politics, in other words, democracy, to try and stop this happening again? Since when has that ever been the case? Like, what the hell what are they talking about? Like, how desperate are these people? And it's like, oh, no, his dad said we can't talk about it, everyone. Yeah, his dad said, stop. Oh, okay, right. I didn't know that's how it worked.
Makes sense.
So we should stop, actually.
We didn't get the memo. Well, this one has got the CBC even worked up here as Scott Pelley been terminated, effective immediately. The Pelley accused editor-in-chief Barry Weiss, the new one from CBS there, murdering the show. And they got into a heated argument there. Termination letter. Your antipathy to the future of the show has come through loud and clear, and I've heard you. I therefore write on behalf of CBS News informing that your employment with CBS is terminated for cause, effective immediately. And we got to remember, what's the guy's name now? The new anchor for... I'm trying to remember his name now. The new anchor, Tony Ducapol, the new anchor for CBS, says that he kind of half-ass apologized for the way CBS has been doing, and the CBS has actually turned it around a bit. Except for, like shows like 60 Minutes, they're not too willing to turn it around. But here's CBC, because they've got to remember that the left-leaning media in the United States is attached at the hip to their, I guess, their Timu version up here in Canada, CBC. CBC Timu version of CBS.
You're the one called Shane or Shine or something.
Shine.
And that's what they are.
Let's hear from CBC on this travesty of journalism here.
Veteran journalist Scott Pelley has been fired from 60 Minutes, the longest-running primetime show in the United States. Pelley's termination comes after a heated exchange with the program's new executive producer and network leadership. Pelley reportedly accused CBS News chief Barry Weiss of murdering the show. Some believe she is steering CBS News to be friendlier to the Trump administration. Pelley's now responded with a lengthy statement. Marianne, can you take us through what he is alleging CBS News has done to 60 Minutes?
Well, he says they have completely changed the show, so much so that he says 60 Minutes has lost its DNA. And there is a very lengthy statement that I'll read a part of what it says. It says, for my part, new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. I've been told to include assertions that are unverified. To date, in every case, I've managed to ignore these instructions or refuse them. Recently, politicians have been invited to choose correspondents for interviews on the broadcast. Giving politicians control over 60 Minutes interviews is not how this is done. He goes on to say, finally, incompetence and unprofessionalism in the new management have wreaked havoc. He also says that after his firing, really not holding back at all, saying that there's been a collapse of values at the top and that the principles he has held dear over his 37-year career with CBS are now gone.
That's good. That's good. That's enough pain for me. I can't wait for the day when Rosemary Barton and David Cochrane have to announce their last days on the network that has collapsed because of nobody wants to pay for it. Because if the Canadian taxpayer is asked the question, do you want to pay for CBC? The answer is going to be no. David, Rosemary, Canadian public doesn't want you. Have the Liberals pay for you. Have the Liberals fund you. See how much you get from them if it's out of their pocket.
But it's about the fake legitimacy, isn't it? That's the power, if there's any power to the CBC. It's this idea that it represents all of us because we all kind of pay for it, even though it only represents one political perspective. But I did find that so funny when they were like, he's accused of, what did he say? He accused CBS News of trying to change its policies to be more favorable to one political party. It's like, what was the next bulletin? I feel like it would have been, okay, in other news, the God Emperor Mark Carney, His Most Divine Majesty, has declared 900% GDP growth in the second quarter. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's mildly exaggerated, but how they can say things like that without recognizing the hilariousness from our perspective, I don't know. I don't know how that. Do they not know we're laughing at them? They have to know, don't they?
Or they could say, like, the Liberal Party has now decided that they will no longer pay taxes. If you were a Liberal Party member, you will not pay taxes. The urchins, the rest of them, will pay double the taxes.
Yeah.
But here it is straight from the CBC. If you wanted to laugh, listen to this guy. He tells you the CBC does not do anything unless it's real news.
You will never, ever have to wonder what is real or what is fake if it comes from CBC News. Hi, I'm Brody Fenlon, General Manager and Editor-in-Chief of CBC News. At CBC, our journalism is fact-checked. It's verified. We don't put anything out into the world unless we know it to be true, or if we haven't verified it, then we'll tell you that. Our journalism is produced by humans who have to meet a really high bar in terms of standards. We're accountable for our journalism. And in the rare cases where we get something wrong, we'll own it. We'll tell you what we got wrong and how we fixed it. And you will never, ever have to wonder what is real or what is fake if it comes from CBC News. That's the invitation. Choose news, not noise.
How come the Canadian public is not believing what you just said there? It's odd, isn't it? 1.67% watch your news. Protest.
I mean, I was worried. I've been a little bit worried about CBC, but now that he's put all my worries to rest, he said it's all fine. Incidentally, remains of 215 children found buried at former BC residential school. May 29, 2021, CBC News. I thought everything that you did was fact-checked and true.
Rosemary Barton, during the trucker convoy, said that Russian money involved and Trump money. Not true. Well, we could go on all day, probably, right? Where's the?
But also, like, what a clownish way to frame that as well. It's like everything we say is fact checked and true. It's 2026, mate. We know the games that obviously I'm a journalist. I know about all these games, but the average person, the public, is well aware of the games that are played, where fact checking involves partisan organizations such as the Southern Poverty Law Center, which you interviewed a couple of weeks ago, CBC, without explaining that organization is discredited somewhat, to say the least. It's possible to fact check, and you get on the phone and just ring up somebody who has all the same opinions as you, absolutely no principles whatsoever, and are willing to say, oh yeah, that's true. Yep, I'm an expert. That's true. Yeah, see you later. There you go. That's a fact check. Again, just like with Carney, how stupid do you think the Canadian people actually are? Like, give me a sort of rough estimate. Give me an average IQ. What do you think? Just give me a number. is it like 60 IQ? Is that what you think? How stupid do you think we are? Do you know what I mean? Like, at some point, you've got to elevate your opinion of the Canadian people just a little bit and just try a little bit harder. Again, like I've said this before, assume that the average Canadian citizen has an IQ of at least 3 digits. Make that assumption in your general life as a public servant or a prominent person in this country, and you're going to do a lot better. You'll be taken a lot more seriously.
Just go to the CBC website right now and just look how they try to stir stuff up for the Canadian Ragers here. The Canadian, it should be the CRC, the Canadian Raging Corporation. Look at the way that headline is written. Trump moves to hit 60 countries, including Canada, with new tariffs over forced labor.
Oh, yeah, look at the...
no mention of Mark
look at the quote marks, though. Forced labor. Was that headline written by Michael Ma?
Yeah, like they put quotations around forced labor. Like, it's clownish. Like, absolute. This is the... Oh, my.
We fact-checked this claim with China expert Michael Ma, who told us he's never seen any such thing with his own eyes.
And they're still running that headline down there. Canada tells U.S. Mexico it wants CUSMA renewed. Do it or else. We will send a strongly worded letter by Anita Anand will be forthcoming.
A waspy voice note will be coming to you soon.
She will send some strongly worded, and Melanie Jolie will come down there and drink all the liquor out of your cabinets. Did I say that? She wouldn't do that, would she? This day in history, as we wait for Dan Elbis, 4 minutes away from Dan zooming in here. 1965, first American spacewalk. Ed White performed the first U.S. spacewalk during the Gemini 4 mission, floating outside the capsule for 20 minutes. And then we're talking about China. The Tiananmen Square protest. The massacre begins 1989, not too long ago, actually, when they rolled tanks over students, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the killing, I think, was just people being shot in miserable, disgusting circumstances in back rooms and things like that. But these are the most famous pictures, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know about this. 1943 Zoot Suits riots begin in L.A. U.S. servant and Mexican-American youth escalated into days of violence. Here's one for you. The Duke of Windsor marries Wallis Simpson. King Edward VIII. Now the Duke of King Eddie.
Well, he was, he was kicked out of power. He was forced to abdicate the throne. In part because of this, but he was just an erratic fool, really, at the end of the day. But this was just one of the many stupid things he did in his life. But in fairness, he seemed to really, truly love this woman. Like, it really was a love match. So hard to hate on him for that.
1889, CP Rail finished. There you go, last spike driven, completing Canada's first transcontinental railway. There you go.
Marvelous.
And it's World Bike Day. You got a bike? We sold all our bicycles.
Yeah, me too. I don't have one. My kids have bikes. Maybe I'll steal their bikes.
Dan's here. And in a second here, we're going to put Dan in. We're going to go to a little bit of a commercial break or whatever. We're just going to put up our little fancy music as we bring Dan into the conversation. How's that? We're back in 30 to 60 seconds with Dan Elbis. Mr. Elbis, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Jim. Nice to see you and Ian.
Howdy.
Dan Elbis, Conservative MP for Okanagan Lake West and South Kelowna. You're going to give us an update on what's going on with security at Toronto Pearson Airport.
Well, I'm not sure if either of you saw the W5 expose on Pearson Airport's baggage security scandal. Essentially, We've had 16 individuals, mostly Canadians, but some are either permanent residents or foreign nationals that have been picked up and accused of drug trafficking when it turns out they were completely innocent. The only crime they committed was trusting that Pearson Airport baggage handlers would do what we would expect anyone to do, which is to get their baggage to their locations safely and securely. But whether it be film footage that has appeared, it seems that baggage tags were switched, drugs were placed. And just imagine for a moment, Jim, if your spouse and yourself were flying internationally and suddenly you get held back and then you get handcuffed and then dragged through Pearson Airport for 8 hours of intensive, questioning, only to find out that you had a picture or a video cam of you leaving your house with a different bag. That's what gets you off the hook. That was a case of a story of a couple that live in Winnipeg that told me that exactly what happened to them, and also a foreign national who couldn't even speak English. So it was a very awkward situation, and it's frightening. So I've spoken to members of parliament that use Pearson often. I try to avoid Pearson when I can, just because it's a big airport. But people are actually taking photos now before they submit their bags, just in case, because they're worried that they could be caught up in something similar. This is not how to run an airport in a G7 country. And with FIFA just around a few weeks out, we're going to be welcoming the world. So the fact that the Minister of Transportation, Stephen McKinnon, has not made a public statement and has refused to answer questions, instead referring them to other members to answer on behalf of the government, to me really shows that I don't know either if it's they don't know how bad the problem is or if they just don't know how to fix it. But this is a Transport Canada lead, and he should be responding to it.
Yeah, this is quite shocking, actually. Inadvertently, you're turned into a drug mule, and then you're to explain yourself, and it is shocking because maybe some people can't even explain themselves out of it, but it is, it is going to be one of the most traumatic events ever as you go into a foreign country with a bag of drugs. And to even make it worse, there was that gold heist that happened there, inside job. So what is literally going on in one of Canada's largest airport? We know that there's a point of weakness in our ports already, in the Vancouver port. We see that with inspections. Now we're seeing Toronto Pearson Airport. It's like when you go to the tap, you expect water to come out. When you go to Toronto Pearson Airport, you expect security, because when you go through security as an individual, you walk through there and you get scanned, you get this, you get that. Turns out people that have even had flags on their employee status are still permitted to work there. Is the minister in charge of transport there incompetent, not able to do his job, or is there calls for his resignation? Where is this at? Because this seems to be one of the most crazy things that I've seen in a while. You expect in a country such as Canada that our airports are secure.
No, absolutely. And again, it's Transport Canada that is supposed to run the security screening process. So this is obviously an issue when you have this happening. And if it's happening at one of our largest airports in Canada, chances are it's probably happening at other airports. And as you said earlier, as a citizen traveling, you're completely vulnerable. When you walk through that CATSA lineup, you're asked if you have an artificial hip, that you get an invasive check. If your child's baby bottle has liquid in it, you're forced to throw it out. So people will comply all the time. But it turns out that at our largest airport, baggage handlers, one of them who was given the identity Charles when he spoke off the record and had his identity protected, literally said, "We joke among ourselves that you could get a cruise missile through here." So that is a big warning. And when I asked the minister for two things, number one, I asked for an apology for these families that, by the way, are still having their baggage when they travel internationally, sometimes in other locations, but certainly when they come back home, they are immediately flagged, and everything they have is torn through by the CBSA because they're flagged in their system. So there needs to be a reckoning here for innocent people now that are being treated as criminals entering their own country. But second of all, again, going back to the safety issue, I asked to see if the minister would be willing to table audits showing that there's compliance, and if there's not, to actually show a plan, and not just for Pearson, but from every major airport. And again, what answers do we get? Well, the government's hiring 1,000 RCMP and 1,000 CBSA, but it's not actually the RCMP or the CBSA who directly screen or manage this system. It's Transport Canada. And I'll just let you know, when I spoke to the minister at the estimates review, I asked him specifically if any cuts were coming. He said, well, there's always efficiencies. And I said, will there be any cuts to safety? He said, no, Canadians can be rest assured there will be no cuts to safety whatsoever. And now we find out that since that time, pink slips have been given out at the Transport Canada Directorate of Dangerous Goods. So when we talk about moving propane, liquefied natural gas, all sorts of dangerous goods on our highways, on our tracks, and at our ports, something that we're trying to do a lot more of, they're actually letting those parts of the department go. So we're getting zero answers, and that's why I'm continuing to push the minister to come to the table and start being accountable for his own department.
I know we only have you for 15 minutes, so I'm not going to monopolize you, but I do see that our ties are matching today. So I'm going to turn you over to Ian, though.
It's a fairly unusual situation, isn't it? Where Steve McKinnon, he has an absolutely enormous job already as House Leader, and he's always doing that. He's always defending the government's priorities and what they're doing in the Commons and so on, and just the party and the government in general. He's one of the sort of big senior figures. But he's also a transport minister. Is it your contention that that should be given to someone else, that it should be a portfolio for somebody and that's all they do?
Yes, so you're absolutely right. He's the House Leader. So he's actually in charge of the government's day-to-day agenda in the House, which is a full-time job of itself. Again, the House Leader has incredible powers and responsibilities and duties, including sitting on the Board of Internal Economy and all these other things. But you're right. The Transport Minister is actually responsible for a number of very big, highly regulated industries: rail, interprovincial, international trucking, boats, anything that floats effectively can be regulated by Transport Canada, as well as any kind of I already said road traffic, airspace aviation. And now we have a spaceport, apparently. You guys have talked about the gravel pit that D&D has bought for $200 million, or at least you say they're leasing for $200 million over 20 years. Now they're going to be regulating space flight. So these are the things that I ask. And this is not the first minister that has been split. In fact, the last three ministers all had dueling agencies that they had to deal with. And so the problem, I think, Ian, here is that Minister McKinnon, whether he's competent or not, doesn't matter. You can usually only be competent at one thing at a time. And unfortunately, transport seems to always get the short end of the stick on this.
And on the subject of competence, you asked a question in the House of Commons about this. It was answered by Gary Nandasangari, Public Safety Minister, who he's responsible for borders. So I guess he has some kind of, it's partly his bailiwick. There was a story in Politico that I'm sure you and all your colleagues read, I think it was Politico, about how Mark Carney's dissatisfied with a lot of his ministers, including Mr. Nandasangari, that he doesn't consider him up to the job. I'm interested in your perspective there, because you've had to have dealings with him on this issue and others. Do you think he's up to this? And I guess that not just him, because lots of names were listed there, but I mean, for this particular question, I suppose, focus on Mr. Nandasangari.
So I would start by saying that you're always going to have a mix. Like someone asked Sir Johnny MacDonald when he was Prime Minister, they said, I don't like some of your cabinet picks. And he says, if you want a better cabinet, send me better wood. But when it comes to the current, look, we have the Minister of Immigration, the President of the Treasury Board, the Minister of Public Safety, all seem to be completely out to lunch when they're asked very basic questions on their files. I will say that Mr. McKinnon is much more competent. He was a former labor minister. Now he's the transport minister as well as the House Leader. But I just would simply say you just have too much overload if one brain is trying to look after everything. And given the state of our Canadian transportation system, there are problems everywhere. Pearson Airport, this is one small area that has a huge outsized place on these 16 people that we know of. But again, if there was a terrorist or something worse incident that was to happen, people would be in jeopardy. So the first rule of government is to protect your people and make sure that there's proper rules being enforced. That is not happening. So whether or not Steve McKinnon is competent or not doesn't matter. He's just unable to put in the time and focus because he's more busy, in my opinion, trying to keep his government's agenda on the rails than it is about keeping Canadians safe on the rails.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, I'll ask you one more, trying to squeeze in. This is quite a big question, but I guess you can be as concise as you can be. But let's say there were an election in a couple of months or something like that. Theoretically, as things stand, this would become your responsibility. You would become the transport minister, given that that's your shadow role right now. How on earth would you fix this? What would you do on day one to fix this?
Well, the first thing you would call is to bring in a transparent list of where the shortfalls were and who's to blame for that. Part of the problem we have in Pearson Airport is that no one seems to be responsible for any one thing. They all seem to have this grouping where, Pearson Airport Authority isn't necessarily responsible. The airlines aren't responsible. The minister is not responsible. CBSA has a piece, but they're not responsible. So the first thing you'd say, who's on first? And then you would say to Canadians, this are the immediate measures we are putting in place today. And these are my plans over the next 60 to 90 days to fix the system so Canadians know that this is being looked at. The same goes for things like Drivers Incorporated. It's a huge issue. We've been doing a study of 8+ meetings, and the government just seems to think that if they make some changes at CRA, that suddenly we're going to get compliance when we have people that have not been trained how to drive a large commercial truck who can't even speak the language and are driving through Quebec and are killing people. There are some big issues here. And again, you need someone to say, what is my role here? The federal government is the person or the group responsible for interprovincial international trucking. So what you need to do is start by saying what is going on, what is wrong, what your role is, what the provinces or other agencies' roles are, and how you're going to fix it in the next 60 to 90 days. So that's exactly how I would immediately start, by being transparent and by saying that we're going to clean this up. But to do that, you need to have the time. You can't be doing that if you're in the House of Commons 8 in the morning till 8 at night.
I'm going to toss a quick one at you then. Just to get an update on the BC ferries. Ian and I have interviewed in the past on BC ferries, and that's this new news out there from Jameson Greer on forced labor. Have you got a sufficient answer yet on the BC ferries? And obviously that ties into forced labor as well.
Well, I haven't looked yet because BC Ferries, every March 31st, they're supposed to submit a report with the minister, I should say, with the Department of Public Safety around its forced or child labor supply chains. And when the CEO came before our committee, I asked to see if he intends to make sure that BC Ferries is a good corporate citizen. He said, oh, absolutely. After playing little word salad, he said yes. And I said, then why did you not put up your report 3 months late and had no mention that you were working with a hybrid Chinese shipyard where there's environmental, labor, and commercial/military problems? And he had said nothing to it. So he was late with filing it publicly. It was impossible to find. And so I'm expecting this year, if BC Ferries has submitted it, that there is a much stronger report that outlines that they have, made a contract with the shipyard, and that they can't just pass the responsibility on to third parties. But this is the problem. The bill that actually forces them to do that was actually done as a private member's bill by Liberal member John McKay, who felt that Canada was falling behind with its commitments internationally on child and forced labor. The government put it in place, but I don't think the system is that robust because if you look at big companies like BC Ferries, if they don't take it seriously, then you can imagine that none of them will.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm going to be respectful of your time. You said you had 15 minutes because you had to get back to something. So we do thank you.
Question period is on right now, guys. And so we'll be holding the government to account. I just hope that the Prime Minister has graced us with his presence today and will be accountable and transparent as we all want it to be.
All right. Thank you, Dan. And we'll let you go. And then Ian and I will finish up our show here. Look at that, eh? 15 minutes, 16 minutes. That was good.
Excellent, really.
Yeah.
Very efficient time management.
So Don Davies,
sent our viewers elsewhere there. That's a sin in broadcasting.
What's that? It's also, we're going to finish up here. It's a National Egg Day. And I want to celebrate that because I eat 4 to 6 eggs a day. I am excellent at the eggs. Excellent. 4 to 6 a day. Been doing that forever. Eggs are the God's food.
I think egg puns have been added to the hate speech bill, haven't they?
Have they?
Those that make egg puns will be.
That's extravagant. That's
extravagant.
Extravagantly audacious.
Exceedingly authoritarian, isn't it? Egg-thoritarian.
Egg-thoritarian. No, I do eat a lot of eggs. The kids, I mean, you get your kids to eat eggs. That's one of the coolest things ever, right? Because eggs, I make egg pizza. I don't know if anybody's made egg pizza. Egg pizza is great. So you take this, like a scrambled eggs, make the eggs in the bottom like a scrambled egg, and then cover it with all the toppings you want, whatever, cheese, vegetables, whatever, and then put it in the oven and cook it up, broil the top of that cheese there. Excellent pizza. How do I prefer to cook my eggs? I love them basted. If I have time, I love basted eggs, right? So then the yolk's got to be runny, but I don't like the phlegmy whites. So there you go. Quick egg and Jim on. There you go. Yeah, no. So I lost like 50 pounds on this excellent diet as well. So and I kept it off. It's been like 7 years now. There you go.
You're upsetting the vegans now.
No, my eggs are beaver eggs. I don't know.
What was it? Ferret eggs, isn't it? That's what we were having. I don't think vegans tolerate ferret eggs.
Somebody says they do 3 eggs a day, Bruno. There you go. You know, they remember that thing they said, don't eat eggs. Eggs are bad for you. Eggs will give you cholesterol. Wrong again.
Yeah, and then made people start to eat egg whites, which has to be one of the saddest meals you can ever have.
Don't eat eggs. Eat egg whites only. Brought to you by the Egg White Lobby.
Egg Whites Incorporated.
Right. That's like the what's that one there? Eat chicken, don't eat beef. Brought to you by the Cow Lobby. That doesn't want to sacrifice itself, right?
Well, we joke about it, but like one of the classics is nuclear power is really dangerous and it's going to kill you. Sponsored by, I don't know, like I was going to say a company, but
the windmill lobby. The windmill lobby.
Well, also the fossil fuels companies, sponsored by Natural Gas Incorporated. It's like, yeah, okay, mate.
Anyway,
I trust you.
It's Egg Day, so excellent. I'm gonna actually have extra eggs today. It's actually National Tailor's Day and Repeat Day, so we've been repeating a lot right now. Repeating our love of eggs.
Have you ever had an egg with 2 yolks?
Yes, many
Pretty
times.
good, isn't it? I've seen one with 3.
I'll give you the worst story ever, because when I lived we had a little hobby farm. I lived on a chicken ranch with 50,000 chickens, though. But we had our own eggs, chicken layers or whatever. And then my dad liked roosters because he liked the color. And you don't want to have roosters when you have layers. I cracked the egg into the pan, and there's chicken in it. It smelled pretty bad. I was off eggs for a while. Took me a while to get past that one. But
yeah. Well, some people are freaked out enough just if they see like a feather on the side of the egg. It's like, nope. So you took it to the next level.
Yeah, I get farm fresh eggs right now. They're great. You got to you don't wash the chicken poop off till you're ready to eat them. But if you want to take the bloom off the egg, it protects the egg. Anyway, we're being silly at this point, but dollars to donuts. There you go. That's it. That's our show. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST. Bring some friends. Somebody says we got to get Jim into the gym to start putting on more muscle mass. Like, I've been putting on muscle mass. Like, it's crazy at my age. Absolutely crazy. Donuts I love, but eggs are better. Fresh brown eggs. Yep, that's the only way to do it. My son cuts the crust off the eggs.
No, the quiche. I think somebody was talking about quiche, weren't they?
Oh, I said my husband grew up on a chicken ranch, 40,000 chickens. I might have been on the same ranch. There you go. Chicken ranch. Yeah, ours was in Three Hills, Alberta. Lots of chickens, man. Holy cow. They were loose back in the day when I was a youngster. They were loose, like you walk through there and you couldn't see from all the blech. Anyway, that's it. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST. Bring some friends. Share this far and wide. And have an excellent day. You got an excellent close? I'm egging you on.
Not really, but I probably am gonna go eat some eggs now. So I guess that's adequate, isn't it?
All right. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST. Cheers. Thanks for watching Now Media. Thanks for